Emily, I hope you can stay a little longer. We got to vote on that last resolution.
44. Ready, Patrick? Three, two, one.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of November 19th, 2024. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please, Debbie.
Commissioner Josh Cohn.
Here.
Via Zoom. Hi, Josh.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Emily Hurd.
Here.
I note that Commissioner Marino is absent. President Zuckerman.
Here. First item of business is adoption of the minutes of October 15th, 2024. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment on non-agenda items. I see we have two members of the public. Would you like to speak?
I sure will.
And please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan Corbett. I live at 600 Forest Avenue. I was here last month to discuss the fall festival, Harvest Fall Festival held by the Barley Beach House in the park. For some reason, this event was cited right up there on Forest Avenue. It ran 4 weekends, more than 6 hours a day, both days. The first weekend, there was a DJ, and the noise was horrific. Please remind me to get your home addresses so that I, too, can bring a DJ to the neighbor across the street from you for 6 hours. However, they did switch to something a little better, but basically, it drove us out of our house for 8 weekend days. The last 2 weekends were much more lightly attended, and the final weekend was the same weekend as the Rye-Harrison game, so it was probably not the most optimal day. Weather was spectacular all 4 weekends. Gotta give it to them. I solicited some comments on Facebook from other members of the Rye community. Too loud, too long, too expensive, $35 per child, and that didn't include doing everything. Somebody said the vendors were not good, not quality. And then it took more than 2 weeks to actually get the area cleaned up and all items removed, including 12 very large bins of pumpkins, which people basically started opening up and taking after the event. Anyway, I hear from Ms. Reisner that there's going to be some changes proposed by the operator of the Barley Beach House, and I welcome those changes. I want the park to be a good neighbor. I want the lessee to be a good neighbor in our neighborhood. We put up with a lot of noise all summer long, folks coming in back and forth, tossing trash in our hedges, etc. And we need corporate neighbors to be aware of the sacrifice the rest of us put up with. So I ask you again to review when the schedule comes from the operator of the Barley Beach House, the number of events, the frequency of events, the location of the events, the pricing of the events, and consider the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will be looking into it. I think it's fair to say that all of us were a bit surprised at the how extensive that particular event was, and we will not be caught off guard next year. So Barley Beach House is a valuable asset to the park. They bring people in. They contribute revenue to us. And all in all, I think it's a very positive experience. But those times that they're negative, we have to address and we'll take care of.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
2 seconds.
Who's got the mic?
My name is Mike Corbett. I live at 600 Forest overlooking the park. My wife and I bought the house 40 years ago, mainly to be near the park. I apologize for talking tonight. I had read Debbie's original agenda, which had discussion of the 2024, so I'll be very brief. Debbie seems to resolve the issues of my neighbors and I. Our biggest problem was first couple of days of October, workmen showed up and they roped off the best part of the park for the neighborhood, where all the children play, where my granddaughter pedals around a bicycle. And it was blocked off for a month. The sound was out of control from 11, we could set our clocks, 11 o'clock to 6 Saturday and Sunday. And in between, the place looked like, honestly, like a homeless camp. It's furniture and tables packed up, multiple stacks as big as me, covered with crummy tarpaulins. It was an absolute disgrace. And so I talked to different neighbors, and we tried to work, with your committee. And we came up with 2 suggestions. One is, rather than the whole month, it was barricaded off, fenced off for an entire month, the prime area of the park, so that we could not use it, the children could not play. That to shrink the festival to, say, 2 weekends. The 4th weekend, no one showed up, so we lost the use of the park, and we got the blasting music, and since it's in my front yard, I could see almost no one showed up. It had played out by the 4th weekend. So you'd be doing the man a favor to shrink it. We would ideally like 2 weeks. And then, okay, we lose the park and it's a dump for 10 days. But, that's our concession we're willing to work with. The other thing is I've lived across, had the pleasure for 40 years, and every event that's had music for 40 years, the sound stages are put in the rear of the park. And it was partially to accommodate the neighborhood, and partially because of the beautiful panorama of the Long Island Sound. In this case, the music stand, performance stage, was 2 feet in from Forest Avenue. And it just was deadening sound, from 11 to 6. And so the question, our neighbors, this is a very affluent area, and if I owned a bar restaurant, Lesson 101 and when I taught in colleges, would be Marketing 101, build a good rapport with the wealthy area around you. And this man has gone out of his way to be hostile by blasting music and so you could help the man be more productive in marketing to the neighborhood than the way he's going about it. So we just moved the performance stand where 40 years in a row, every single music event, Westchester Marathon, the great Rye Town Park concerts, everything, the stage is always in the rear. And it's mainly to accommodate the neighborhood. So I just would appreciate those 2 points when you review for next year. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Emily has to leave shortly, so if you don't mind, I'd like to put the discussion of the polar plunge at the end of the agenda rather than the beginning, because we have to vote on some resolutions. And
I have about 30 minutes.
pardon me?
I have about 30 minutes.
All
Yeah.
right. So let's move on to the resolution supporting the Town of Rye's application for a grant from Westchester County, $427,000 for renovating the Rye Town Park bathhouse interior. I have written memos on this. Basically what this is we have received funding from the state of New York for approximately half the cost of the bathhouse. We are seeking funding from the County of Westchester for the remaining part of the bathhouse. The estimated cost is over $850,000 for that project. So because of the fact that the town of Rye is part of the Urban County Consortium, the town is entitled to apply for these funds. And so this resolution is for the Park Commission to support that application. Are there any comments about that? If not, may I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Enthusiastically.
Yeah, second.
Debbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yep.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. A briefing regarding the capital projects, and we're going to combine that with the resolution approving change orders 2, 3, and 4 for the beach level bathrooms. Gary, do you want to make that presentation, please?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Gary Gianfrancesco. I'm basically serving as your capital architect on various projects down at the park. With regard to the restrooms, we have 3 change orders that are in front of you this evening, and I'd like to put them into perspective if I could, from a value amount. The base contract for this job was originally $523,000 and change. Typically, we would budget for change orders on new construction of about 5% of that number, which would be $26,000 and change. And typically, we would budget change orders on the value of closer to 10% on a renovation. And I think historically, from working down at the park, we recognize that when we touch something over here, something else moves or is out of whack, or we find things that are just strange to begin with. So the first change order in the job was steel reinforcing of the floor where the original bathrooms were where those stairs led to. There were the old bathrooms. Obviously, they were not handicap accessible. When we did demolition, we recognized that that floor was not tied into the walls around it, and we had to steel reinforce underneath that slab to the tune of about $6,800. Part and parcel with that is the change order that's in front of you tonight for electrical work. When we went to install that steel to support that floor, there were numerous old conduits that were run willy-nilly. There's a photograph in the package that I gave to the board. The junction boxes were rotted out. The conduits were rotted. But more importantly than that, the wiring was all overloaded. There was way too many. The circuiting was bad, and this circuiting had nothing to do whatsoever with the bathrooms themselves. They basically served the admin director's office. So that was a change order of $8,121. These were in the scope of the job itself. These were part and parcel of the job. The last piece of the in-scope change orders had to do with rock removal. We had to install a sewer injector, which we knew we had to install. When we started to excavate, we hit rock about 2 feet down, and again, we gave you photographs in that memo that depict the rock removal. It was extremely tough rock removal. And there was one guy in the hole with a jackhammer for 8-10 hours a day. All of that debris had to be removed by hand and brought out of the building. That was a change order of about $14,000. So those 3 together, which were what I would consider in scope, they're part and parcel of the work we contemplated, were approximately $26,925, which is about 5.5% of the original contract. So that's basically in line with what we would have expected. There are 2 other change orders, one which you've already approved, which was for the new drain line. That was a $20,000 change order, which when we broke up the floor for the new bathrooms, we detected and we saw broken clay tile pipe underneath the floor slab, and the basement of the building was basically being flooded out by the backflow of water. So part and parcel with putting in the new drain line, which was brought out to, it was about 175 feet, brought out to the catch basin on Dearborn. The patching of the trench required about $5,000 more additional paving because the pavement itself was deteriorated, everything you touched. So in order for the new pavement to have something solid to bind to, the amount of paving exceeded what would normally have been maybe a 3-foot wide trench. This ended up being 6 or 8 feet for 175 feet, and then there were some other spots in between. Those two change orders, $26,370, approximately 5% of the total contract. So all in all, we don't like change orders more than anybody else, of course, but we're in the 10% range with all of this, and those two in particular were outside of the scope of the project. We had no contemplation of putting in a drain of any kind, nor paving. That was not a part of the original job. So I think, all things considered, it was a gnarly little job, quite frankly. I mean, everything you touched was cracked. So that's basically the essence of the change orders. There's 3 in front of you this evening, which 2 of which were part of the original scope of work, and the other one is for the pavement, which was beyond the scope of the original job. With regard to the project, we are basically 98% complete. Everything is done except for the toilet partitions, which we are waiting on. The expected delivery date of the toilet partitions is mid-December. We know when things get around the holidays, anything can happen, and everybody promises you the world, but that's what we've been told. We've been in direct contact with the supplier.
Gary, let me interrupt 1 second. I had a discussion with Russ today regarding that and the fact that we have to turn the water off in the, for the cold weather.
Yes.
So the question is getting a final inspection.
Yes.
It's obviously not going to pass without the partitions. On the other hand, what I would like to do is call, unless we can't do that, call for an inspection and let the inspector review everything else so that all of that passes, with the exception of the partitions, and call them back, then we can turn the water off, then call them back any time when the partitions go in. Because
Yes.
we don't really need the bathrooms till the spring.
So to that end, I just became aware today that the plumber was being pushed off from getting his final inspection until everything was in place. I reached out to the building inspector today, and he said he would happily come do the plumbing inspection so that the system will get filled and drained while we wait for the partitions.
Good.
The plumber's been notified of that, and he just has to schedule his
All right.
final plumbing inspection. But I just became
Good.
aware of that today.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay, the pavilion roof project is well underway. We have an exceptional contractor. They are artisans. They mill their own wood. Their aluminum work, their copper work is exceptional, and they are real artisans. The job is proceeding. We started, as you know, with the street side pavilion. That was to be the first one. That was the original way we were proceeding, and then we added the beachside pavilion. The lead time on the clay tile is about 6 months. So when we got approval for the street side pavilion, the order goes in, and our contractor does a lot of work with the clay tile provider. It's Luigi. They're the guy to go to for clay tile roofs, and we added the beachside pavilion tile to the order. Obviously, it's going to come later, but we're not looking at the 6 months. From a timing perspective, the street side pavilion should be done 100% except for the painting. We can't be painting this time of year, but all the tile, all the aluminum, all the copper work will all be done on the street side pavilion in about 4 to 6 weeks from now. The beachside pavilion, the expectation is that mid-January, the delivery of the field tile, which is the majority of the tile, and that's the tile that's easily procured because they produce so much of it. It's the ridges and the valleys, the odd pieces of clay tile that usually take an exceptional amount of time. So the delivery of the field tile and what we call the starter tile, which is the first closed-end tile to start laying out the field, should be here in mid-January. We do not have a date on the ridges, the hips, and the various other parts of the tile.
What's the life expectancy on the roof?
100 years, we have a 75-year warranty.
Oh, fantastic. Somebody stopped me in the park recently, a longtime Rye resident, and said, we just redid the roofs less than 10 years ago. Is that?
These
No.
are original. These are, I wouldn't say they're original, but they're darn close.
Okay, I was
10-year-ago project
was the tower building. That's exactly what I said, and
Yes.
he disagreed with me?
No.
No?
The tower building was like 20 years ago.
Well, it was Steve Otis,
The bathroom,
right?
the bathroom building was just a few years ago. The pavilions were never replaced, weren't they just like repaired?
They were repairs. We could see the repairs as we ripped
Yeah,
everything apart.
didn't John Ambrose have to do the repair of the pavilion as a condition when the prior administration, or when I think Bobby Morabito's administration?
It wasn't a replacement, it was just.
Yeah, he had to, yeah, that was part of the condition of entering into a new concession agreement for Seaside Johnny's.
Great. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
So again, with regard to the timing on this job, street side will be done, except for the painting. There may be a lapse of 2 or 3 weeks while we wait for the field tile for the beach pavilion. In the meantime, they're doing all the other remedial work. There's a fair amount of remedial work that's being done. We're changing sheathing out where it's rotted, and so there may be a 2 or 3 week lapse where there's not much going on, but they'll come back and finish up and work their way out the door.
So when do you think that'll be done?
Well,
Think-
we know we're gonna have the field tile in January. They'll go right through that in probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then there'll probably be a 2 or 3 week lapse waiting for those pieces. But they go in fast.
Yeah, they work through the winter.
Oh, yes, yes. They live for this stuff. Really.
So we are virtually guaranteed, although nothing is guaranteed in life, that this pavilion will be ready for beach season.
Absolutely. Barring any act of God, of course.
Barring.
And the photos that are up now have to do with the admin building stucco emergency repair. You can see the corner was really squirrely, if you will. It was, you could put your fingers underneath there. And when we started to tap with the hammer, which is what we do, I got up in the bucket myself, and we decided on the scope of how much would have to come out. The way this place has been built is just unique. So not only is there brick underneath here, just like the retaining walls, there's a fair amount of wood framing that has stucco on it. If you can see where the arched windows are, all of that area above there is wood framing with stucco on it. So it's, when we hit it with the hammer, it sounded very different. It sounded hollow. It sounded like the scope of this might expand beyond what we had anticipated, which was 3 days of work to remove the loose stucco and reapply. As it turned out, when we realized what we were hearing, and you can see it right here, you see the wood framing? So all of this was still very solid. This was a bad patch. There was a hole actually right here above that molding. So at the end of the day, the emergency repair was estimated at 3 days. The contractor worked 3.5 days, and he's not billing the town for the extra half day. So the estimate and the final invoice will be a hand glove fit with what we expected.
It's about $8,500, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
so that's, yeah.
And you know, it was done promptly, and again, what it did for us also was it gave us a chance to get a sense of the structural integrity of the tower as well.
So majority of the tower is just wood framing with
No,
stucco?
no.
A majority is the brick,
Yes,
but there are portions that are just wood.
yes.
When they ran out of brick.
So there's no like structural reason why almost the posts or the towers are brick and the rest of it isn't. It's just,
Well, it made sense from a
Yeah.
labor perspective, you know, making those arches and, you know, if you did them out of masonry, now you have to support them in this way. It made sense when you actually looked at it closer. So this photograph is the pergola on top of the admin building, which has, the replacement has been completed. All of the rafters are all new. The white beam, the horizontal white beam, has now been encased in an AZAC material that is not only waterproof, doesn't require paint. That'll take us for the life of this structure. We had another very good contractor here, a real artisan carpenter, and he was a pleasure to work with. He took pride in what he did, and there are places, I think, where he went above and beyond just because that's the way he does things.
Wasn't this the Friends of Rye Town Park?
Yes, and again, this
Yeah.
was paid for by the Friends of Rye Town Park, but
And-
beautiful
and we-
addition.
And we found a new artisan to work with.
Yes, absolutely. He's someone we would like to work with again, honestly.
And did he do, sorry, I know the pergola, but also the, what other work did he do on
Window trim.
the window trim?
You know, the
Was
one
that
we
with
did
the-
last summer.
The door stuff?
Yeah.
That-
Yes.
Yeah, they loved it. I think he was great, right?
Yes, he's a pleasure to work with.
back to, and I'm sorry,
Yes.
the emergency repairs to the stucco, because I know that that's been a very, we've done it before, obviously years ago, and you can see sort of the different color stucco. Are there any areas that you can see, you know, 1 or 2 years down the line becoming an emergency?
It's hard to tell, quite frankly, but from what we examined on the tower that we were on, I covered 3 sides. We couldn't get to the back. 3 sides, top to bottom, were acceptable. You know, I wouldn't say, if we felt if there was something that was questionable, we went ahead and fixed it.
So for the next few years, we won't need to address.
No, but what should get addressed is the finish on and finding the right material, which is what we're going to start looking into next. We're going to need some way to make the surface homogeneous, because there's been so many different patches, so many different textures. But we'll figure something out. That's the next big step.
Try to figure out how to get a grant for that.
Right. Bathhouse interior, the project we've all been waiting for. We are close to putting this out to bid at this juncture. We're doing our final construction documents and writing of the specifications for this. Our estimation is probably 3 to 4 weeks before we're ready to push that button.
We are waiting for final go-ahead, both from state parks and, I don't think you were part of the email chain. We are on the verge of obtaining I know I've spoken to you orally about this, but we're on the verge of obtaining county funding for the other 50%. I'm not sure how quickly that's gonna go and when we will get the authorization to proceed.
Correct.
But once we do that, we're ready to go. Now, you've worked with the city of Rye, with their consultants
Yes.
to go over whatever is
Right.
needed with them?
We've done a pre-submission submission to them, basically on the layouts, the reduction in fixtures, the clearances of fixtures, a lot of things that they're very in tune with, and obviously we want to be responsive and get it right the first time. So our estimation is that what we give them should fly right through, because they've already had a chance to see it. We've had conversations with their building code and zoning code consultant. And they've been good to work with. So the last thing,
That's not the last thing. Why don't you talk about the retaining wall?
okay. The retaining wall. As, you know, we've worked very closely with Debbie and yourself and the county on trying to secure this funding. We've demonstrated to them the urgent need. We were able to give them an indication of portions of walls which have collapsed in the last year. There are more than a few, and when you really look at things, the wall definitely is listing into the parking lot, and it's a matter of time before that just falls off. So we've done our construction documents, we've done the structural engineering, and when the town is in a position to move forward, this is waiting for us. We're good to go.
Yeah, we have, for refreshing the commissioner's recollection and for the members of the public, we already have secured a grant of $250,000 through Senator Mayer. It's called the Low Cap Program. And we've made application to the county through the CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant Program. Their maximum is $200,000, so we've applied for that. And that Gary referred to urgent. We applied to that program under their urgent program need, as opposed to we have a walkway application in under the disability program need. So all of those are pending, as well as we're still waiting to hear from state parks, where we've also applied for $450,000 to cover both the wall and the walkway. So we should hear from them, as they say, any moment. They're supposed to issue their awards in November. Normally they don't get them out till December, and our fingers are crossed.
And Gary, refresh my memory, is this a complete knockdown and rebuild?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
there's no salvaging.
No, in
The
fact,
way it exists.
the exploratory work that we did, we've spent a lot of time figuring out what was going on with this wall. So we've done soil borings, we know what we're bearing on, we know we have unsuitable soils very high, which mean our new footings will need to go lower, and we'll have to do compacted fill. We did excavations along the wall to identify the depth of the footing that wall is sitting on. And that footing is about 2 feet below grade, and it's a stone cobbled, it's just not what we would expect moving forward that would give us longevity. So we're gonna have a poured concrete, reinforced concrete wall, which we will stucco over. We'll have precast caps on it, and we will mimic the concrete cap here you see on the left, and have a form made so that moving forward, you can use that form for other.
We have a lot of other caps that probably need replacing.
Yes.
So we'll have the form.
And just to reiterate the importance of supporting this project, I mean, from the pictures, we can all see the amount of parking spots that this wall being in the condition it is taking up and preventing people from parking. Gary, are any of those handicapped
They're
spots?
all
They're all
handicapped. All the handicapped.
There's 4 of them there. The other thing that's even more noteworthy than the parking that we're missing is this portion of the wall here, which overlaps the bathhouse building. This is holding back about 5 feet of soil. That soil is protecting the footing of the bathhouse. When this wall comes down, that soil's coming into the parking lot, and it's gonna put the bathhouse, if we get to that point, it would put the bathhouse in jeopardy, structurally in jeopardy.
Just what we need.
We finally get it done.
Emily,
I make a motion.
what,
I second.
what is the motion?
Yeah, for what?
Fix it.
So,
For all of it.
Emily has to leave, but before she leaves, have we approved all of the resolutions we have to approve? We did the IMA, we did and we did the
Did we do the ADA?
the extras, right?
Yeah, we did the bathhouse,
Did we
we're
do
having a
the,
discussion, you've done the change orders.
Did we
Right.
change it?
I think, I think you voted on all your resolutions.
We did vote on the change order.
We voted on them?
I know they were described. Then
We
I
didn't
thought we
vote on
went.
That's a
Okay.
good point,
Then I
no.
thought
Before we
we
go-
went to
Not
the
vote on it.
presentation.
No, we
then
didn't.
went
Okay.
to the presentation.
Right.
Right, we
Let
need
us
to
have
vote
a
on the
a
change
motion and a second to approve the change order.
order. So moved.
Second.
Debbie, call the roll.
Commissioner Cohen,
Yep.
Commissioner Jackson,
yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Okay, so now we've done all the resolutions.
All right, thank you. Gary, you should come to every meeting.
Oh,
You're Gary too, right?
San Francisco.
Yeah, right.
I am at every meeting.
No, this is fantastic, especially when we have all this work going on.
Emily, thank you.
Thank you. Apologies. I had one for the polar bear plunge, too.
I know, I think Russ will do some, I think our friend has left, right, Russ?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Thank you. Bye.
Gary, you have still more to do.
Yeah, the last topic on my agenda has to do with the Barley House. We've experienced flooding of the roof deck from rain. We have roof deck water that's just pouring down into the basement. As a way to mitigate that, we are going to replace the gutters on the clay tile roof of the Barley House, which is 3 sides. On the back of the Barley House, we have a flat roof, and there's a gutter there that will empty into the new gutters that we're installing. We're gonna install larger gutters, and then we're going to take that water on the park side, on the promenade side, and underground it. We have 2 liters that we're gonna take down, and then just bring it to daylight over by, where is that? Where the drain is? Yes, yeah. And we'll just dump the water out into daylight. This is kind of like a do a little bit and see. We're not sure. There's a couple of leaders which will remain that go into the building. They seem to be functioning okay, so we're not anticipating taking them out. But the ones on the promenade side will go to daylight. We're gonna capture all the water on the 3 sides. That's why we're putting in a bigger gutter. And redirect it. That's basically what we're doing there. The other thing relative to the Barley House is the door on the outside door on the lower concession, which would be underwater, looking at this water right here. We're proposing to install a flood door on that opening, similar to the flood doors that we installed for the ADA bathrooms. It's an expensive little item, but it's the only item that will prevent that water from just gushing into the lower level.
All right. In conjunction with that, a couple of other projects. One is the pond drainage flood mitigation. As a result of Hurricane Ida, we were able to procure a grant from FEMA to do a study as to what caused all of this flooding. And the study resulted in a plan from our engineers, Dolph Rotfeld Engineering, Division of AI Engineers, as they call themselves now. Our main engineer being James Nattarelli. That resulted in a proposal, and we have submitted a grant request to FEMA that would fund approximately 75% of the cost. The project is projected to cost over $3.5 million, so that is quite substantial. And we are also in the process of getting approved by the Westchester Stormwater Mitigation Plan, or program rather, and for that we have to get into what is known as the reconnaissance plan, which requires approval by the Stormwater Advisory Board, and we're in the process of going through all of that, and with any luck we will be able to pursue that application within the next month or so. So, and I mentioned this, I was at the Rye City Council last night making a presentation along with Debbie on all of this, and this is one project that we are not going to do unless we get both grants, because it is very expensive. And Jason, you're familiar with the stormwater management with the Avon Circle plan. So that is that. Before we get to Sea Grant, we also have, as part of our CDBG funding and state parks funding, a walkway along the promenade. Also, our engineering firm proposed this. This comes about because the area from the ticket booth all the way to the north end bathrooms are not wheelchair accessible, and we've had some complaints from people who either use wheelchairs or walkers that they cannot navigate the promenade. So this is an application that we have also put in. And the last thing I want to mention, Debbie had it flashed up, is the climate vulnerability study. From Sea Grant, and I think Ruby Tower is going to make a short presentation on that. Ruby?
Hello, everyone. So as you may know, Rye Town Park was awarded a grant for a climate vulnerability study and then a plan, and the award came from the Long Island Sound Study Sea Grant program. And as part of this grant program, a consulting firm has been engaged to conduct this assessment. And the deliverables that they're going to produce to us is a study that analyzes the existing conditions of the park, and then a plan that outlines the climate-related risks that they're going to identify, and then suggested solutions. And as part of their research, the consulting firm is going to coordinate with the Park Commission to create a stakeholder group that's going to provide input and feedback throughout the project. And the stakeholders are going to meet about once a month with the consulting firm. And then in order to make the stakeholder group as comprehensive and representative as possible, we would like your input on specific individuals who should be included in the group and these discussions. And we'd appreciate your recommendations for the stakeholder group by the January Park Commission meeting. And we also want you to know that Rye Town Park has been selected as the site of the Sea Grant Press Conference to feature the first 15 awardees of this grant, including our own award. And the event's going to be on December 6th at 9:30 a.m. And we'd like to invite you all to attend if you're able.
You're reading from the Sea Grant people, right? Using
A little of my
right,
own.
Okay. I think you alluded to the fact that we're not the only community. Ruby? We're not the only community. See, there are other communities that
Yes,
have awarded.
in New
So
York
this
and
is-
Connecticut.
Right, this is a part of a larger program for all of Long Island Sound. And take the opportunity, Josh, we want to get people from the area who might be interested in serving on the advisor, what are we calling it, advisory group?
It's a stakeholder committee.
Stakeholder committee. So we want to get people from our area. So if you could possibly reach out to members of the Rye City community to be involved, and Jason, people from Rybrook, and Lindsay, we're going to reach out into Rye Neck to reach people, and possibly we could even get people from Portchester. Who knows? So we're going to go forward with that.
Gary, just to follow up with the discussion about the promenade sidewalk and climate vulnerability study, are we doing anything, what material are we using
For what?
for the sidewalk?
The sidewalk
Is it gonna be
project,
permeable
No.
asphalt? Is it going to be
we were,
weatherproof?
we were given two designs, two alternatives by the engineers. One is concrete sidewalk, the other is asphalt sidewalk. It's, the sidewalk itself will be no more than 5 feet wide, and it will run along the promenade.
But if you get sort of a storm surge as far as the tide or whatever,
Well, because of the difference in grade, it's rare that the sidewalk or the promenade gets overrun with water from the surf. However, because of the sidewalk, there's a bump up, right? It actually may help with some of the erosion that we get because of the stormwater runoff coming off the hill and running across the promenade that sweeps away the stone dust and reveals all the bumpy surface underneath. So it will have some helpful impacts in that way.
great.
All right. I think that basically covers it, except for the management report.
Well,
And the
polar
polar
plunge.
plunge. First of all, before I get to, Josh, any comments?
No comments, thank you.
You're looking so relaxed over there. Russ, do you want to talk about polar plunge?
Not, no, it's not, qualified.
Well, I don't think there's any problem.
When is the event?
You know when the event is? January 1st.
New Year's Day.
Well, my suggestion is that we'll get some kind of proposal from the presenter, and I will circulate it to the park commissioners well in advance of New Year's Eve to get feedback.
Well, we do it every year. I think the only change is that this year Rye Try is going to be the sponsor as opposed to the ALS people.
Russ, would you please get up and speak into the microphone? So
Whatever you say, it's not
Oh, you saw Ray here.
Huh?
Who was here before?
Ken Harris.
Ken Harris, I mean, yeah. Ken was here,
Uh-huh.
okay, and he was gonna speak, and he obviously had to leave.
Yes.
Okay, so, do you have his, let me see if I have Ken's information. I have Ken's information. I will contact Ken.
Yeah, I don't want to be, you know, obstructionist, but I'm not authorized to speak on their behalf. That's all I want to say.
Fine.
Okay?
Why don't you approve it provisionally, and if there's any amendments, then we'll do it in December. If we have a meeting.
That is an excellent idea. Josh, do you agree? We'll approve it provisionally?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that exchange.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Harris had to leave for whatever reason, and we don't have the details. I'm gonna contact him and get the details, but we always have a polar plunge on New Year's Day. I see no reason why we shouldn't. So Jeff suggests, and I agree, we approve it provisionally pending details. Agreed?
Sounds fine.
I didn't hear you. Yes?
That was a yes.
Okay, good. Lindsay,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have a, Russ, do you want to talk about the management report? There are a lot of good things in there.
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
Thank you,
answer.
Gary.
It kind of speaks for itself, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
My, there it is, okay. Couldn't get it. Wrong thing. Wrong thing. Basically, Russ's management report kind of tracked the things we did at this meeting. Repairing the beach level bathrooms, et cetera, and one thing of note is that the Park stone entrance column that was struck by a truck last year is being repaired and is nearing completion. I don't have any, he asked a question, when are we getting the repair to the duck pond pathway? Do you know when that's gonna happen?
No, that is definitely on my to-do list.
Will that be done before the spring, or is it gonna be done over the winter?
I certainly hope so.
Okay. One last thing before we adjourn is we have a meeting currently set for December. I plan on canceling that meeting unless somebody has an objection. I don't want to cancel it yet in case something comes up that we have to meet about, but I fully plan on not having a December meeting. Agreeable to all? Josh, I know you really want to come on December, but.
Yeah, Gary, it'll be a real deprivation to give it up, but I'll do you that favor.
Oh, okay.
Gary,
I'm glad to get your consent on this.
Gary, I know the preliminary budget is, you guys have started to work on the parks budget, right, preliminarily?
We have started it, yes.
Will we see something around December, or?
I think we could absolutely get a draft budget out to the commissioners. It need not be presented in person, but certainly
Yeah.
we can get it out to you for comment. One of the big open questions with regard to the parks revenue structure has now been answered. Now that we're proceeding with the intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County. So we're now able to make some solid projections with regard to our revenue for, I'll just get it. I'm not sure which one of these is, I think it's probably this one. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we understand our revenue structure and the construct that county residents are to be charged 2 times what local town of Rye, city of Rye residents are to be charged, we're going to be able to go forward with a realistic pro forma. We're also, we've been working with staff, I've been working with staff. We are going to be recommending a modest increase to the parking fee, which is of course an across-the-board fee. And we're also preparing to recommend that we continue charging for parking for the month of October. If you have feedback on that, I'd certainly be willing to, I'm very interested in hearing it. We added April to this year, and that added about $7,500 to revenue. And as climate change continues and the weather is beautiful, and we have staff who are there anyway, my recommendation is that we add October as well. And I've been working with the restaurant on a projection for their revenues for 2025, which I have now. So I'll be able to put into place what that would mean for our concession fees.
I'd also like to have a comparison. They gave you a projection for 2024. And, yeah, we projected fees from Barley Beach House for 2024. And the question is, did those projections come near to be accurate? Were they way over, way under?
I can tell you that they're under. We'll see what happens. They're going to stay open through. First of all, we just got a deposit in the month of November, so that is not showing in our financials at this point. But obviously it will, and they're going to be open through December. So it will be under, but it may be closer than it is right now.
Okay.
In addition to that, I have talked our former project manager, Elon Katzin, into coming back off the bench and to working with us on updating his sensitivity model for us and inputting our current data to give us some guidance on fee structures and then teaching our staff how to use it going forward. So all of that is sort of on track for January, but we should be able to get a working model for December.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Well, you made the motion.
night, everyone.